Hello my students in grade 5, this is Miss Mary and today we will start a new lesson, lesson 2 in unit 11 about how does ocean water moves. You will find this page 505 in the book volume 2, so let's start together. The first kind of movement of water in the ocean is wave, as we see here in the picture. What means wave? Wave means up and down movement. If you see here, you will find that some places the water is high and in some places the water is low. So what is the meaning of wave? Wave is the up and down movement of water surface. We have to know that waves carry energy from place to place. And the energy of waves can come from many sources. Most of them wind. The wind is the main reason for waves, sometimes by earthquakes or volcanoes or hurricanes, but the main reason for waves caused by wind. So let's move to the next slide. Waves. The bottom of the waves is low most, the top of the waves gets ahead, the top falls over and breaks. As the water moves to the beach or to the shore, the part that near to the surface of the water or the floor of the water, this part slows down because it hits the land. So this part of the water slows down the speed while the upper part keeps moving forward. And when they reach the beach or the shore, what happens? This part will grow ahead and will fall apart and breaks and make this big wave. Okay, so let's say again, when the water moves and reaches the shore or shallow place, the water down slows down while the water up goes forward. And in this case, the water grows bigger and it breaks to the smaller waves or the ripples that we have on the surface of the water. Also, if we look here, we will find that the waves from down moves in circulations or circles, as we see here. Okay, so why we see this big wave on the beach? Because why we see this big wave on the beach? Because as the water moves forward, the water down slows down while the water up goes fast, and that's why the upper part of the water grows bigger and then breaks down. Types of waves. We have two types of waves. First kind called surface waves and second kind called storm surge. We will know what the difference between them in the next slide. So let's start with the surface waves. Surface waves are caused by wind pushing against the surface of the water. When the wind is strong, it pushes the upper part of the water, and this make the waves, the normal waves, which is up and down. Of course, if the wind is stronger, the waves also will be higher. But if the wind is slower or light, the waves will be small or low. Waves affect the shoreline. If the shore or the beach, if the waves are very strong, they cause changes in the shore or on the beach, and we will see this later. Okay, so in the next kind of waves called storm surge, and this kind of waves are huge, powerful waves that caused by hurricanes. As we know, hurricanes is kind of a storm that forms on ocean surface, on the oceans. A huge storm on the ocean, and when the hurricanes reach land or a place where land is found, they cause a lot of destruction or destroy houses that near to the ocean because of the this strong big wave. So like here, as we said, like here, the hurricane is like a storm, a huge storm over the ocean surface. When the hurricane reaches the land, it makes a huge wave called storm surge, and this wave can destroy homes and houses near to the ocean, like here. So this big wave, huge wave, is called storm surge and usually comes after hurricane, and this wave gets the powerful or the energy from the hurricane itself. Okay, so the two types of waves: surface wave that caused by normal wind, and the second waves called the storm surge, which caused by hurricanes. Second kind of water movement called current. The current is a steady flow of water in a regular pattern. Current is like a flowing river inside the ocean. The water flows like a stream or river in the ocean. We have many kinds of currents. Rip current, and this is the most dangerous kind of current. This kind of currents pull the people inside and the water moves very fast inside this area. And the only way to escape from this rip current is to escape this left or right side, because the rip current water can move very fast inward the ocean, as we see here. This is kind of currents. Some kind of currents also move from continents to another continents, like the cold water and the hot water. They move between continents and they move for a very long distance. This is another kind of currents called longshore currents. And the longshore current on the surface, on the beach, the one that's responsible for moving the ball from this point to another point, because the water takes the ball from one side to another side. This is longshore current. And also we have another kind of currents, deep currents, which found in the ocean, very deep in the ocean. So currents like water that moves like a river in the ocean, and usually this is happen because wind also, and different temperatures of water. The different temperature of water in different regions of the Earth's surface. Number 3, how does water move in the ocean? Tides. So we spoke about waves, we spoke about currents, and number 3, tides. The tide is the rise and the fall in the water level on the ocean, like here in, we will see the pictures that will show the. So number 3, tides, and the tides are the third kind of how water moves in the ocean. So number 1 was by waves, number 2 by currents, and number 3 by tides. What means tide? Tide is the rise and fall in the water level of the ocean, and this is different from waves. We will see how. Tides are caused because of the sun's and the moon's pull, and also we will see how. Here we have a low tide. Now you can see the sign, and you can see the starfish, and this is a high tide when the water comes back, and look here to the sign, it's almost covered by water until here, and no starfish again. So we have two types of tides, low tide and high tide. This is the same place. Okay, also this is another picture for low tide and high tide. So the low tide, the level of the water is fall down, or the water level becomes low, and here in the high tide, the level of the water become high, the level of the water becomes higher, and this is in the same day. Okay, so the rise and the fall of the water level is called tides. How tides happen? As we said in the previous slide, that tides caused by the gravity of the moon and the sun. The moon and the sun, both of them pull the water toward them. Okay, so because of the gravity of the moon and the sun, they both attract water toward them, and this we call this spring tide. And this is the very high tide here in this area. People that live here in this area will have very high tide. But people they live here on the North Pole and the South Pole will have low tide. Okay, this is called spring tide. Look here also another picture for how tide form. As the moon moves around the earth, the moon pulls the water with it as it moves around the earth. But the moon pulls more water than the sun, because the moon is closer to us than the sun. Okay, let's see also another picture, this picture in the book. Here we have two types of tides, neap tide and spring tide. In the neap tide, the moon and the sun, they are not in the same direction. They don't line up here. So they make like L shape. Can you see this L shape? And in this case, the high tide is not very high because only the moon pulls the water in this direction. The moon only pulls the water. But here in the spring tide, moon and the sun, they both of them line up in the same direction. So both of them, they pull the water of the Earth's surface, and this causes spring tide. So in the spring tide, the high tide and the low tide, the high tide is very high and the low tide is very low. Okay. This is called the spring tide when the sun and the moon, they both are in the same direction. They line up. And this happens when the moon is in new moon and full moon, because in this directions, the moon and the sun will be in the same level or in the same line. While in the third quarter and the first quarter, in these two cases, we call it neap tide because the moon and the sun, they are not in one line. So spring tides are the highest high tides. They have very high tide. Why? As we said, because the sun and the moon, both of them pull the water. And the lowest low tide, and that's why in these two areas we'll have very low tide, the lowest tide. Neap tides are the high and low tides that are closest to the same level. Here they have a high tide in the poles here, high tide, while these two places will have low tide. So this means that the moon pulls water from these places toward it, and that's why this will cause places on the Earth's surface that has high amount of water, and some places will have low amount of water, and this is the cause of the tides. Changing the shore lines. As we see here in the two pictures, the beach or the shore changed a lot because of waves. Every time waves come, they leave some sand on the shore or on the beach, and the water goes back to the ocean. And by the time, this will make the beach or the shore smaller and shallow, more shallow or shallow. So land at the edge of the ocean, this land is called shore. The action of wind in the ocean constantly changes the shore. Over time, many years, the ocean waves can cause changes in the shore. People can restore the beach from this action of the waves by building jetty. What is a jetty? The jetty is like a building made of rocks. They make it inside the water to stop or to slow down the ocean. And it's often made of piles made of rocks. The jetty is a structure often made of piles of rocks that the current cannot move. It stands against the flow of water. Jetties can both preserve beaches and keep sand from accumulating and making waterways too shallow for boats. So the jetty protected the ocean from becoming too shallow for boats and ships to move, to sail, and also they stop the shore from they also protect the beach and keep the sand from forming and accumulating and making waterway too shallow. So people to solve the problem that caused by waves, people to solve the problems of waves, erosion, they can form or they can build jetties inside the water. Jetties like a wall made of rocks to slow down waves. While waves come very fast, they hit the jetty and then the water slow down. So the water will not reach or the waves will not reach the shore and will stop from putting sand back on the shore, and this will not make the beach to be shallow or the shore or the water to be shallow at the shore. Okay, here we have picture for the jetty. Jetty is a structure, as we said, a structure or a building that stands against the flow. As the water comes here, they hit the jetty, and the currents also they hit the jetty, and they slow down, and they will not cause the waves to reach the shore, and in this case the beach will not be shallow or will not be smaller. Okay, so this was everything for this lesson. So see you in another video. Bye bye.